Hello, very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to today's session, Cybercrime Protection, Why Now More Than Ever. Whether you're tuning in from WebEx, Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, thank you very much for joining us. We are from the Star Events Unit, and this live webinar is brought to you by Star Media Group in partnership with Cisco. More importantly, we hope you continue to stay well and innovative as we enter the second year of the COVID-19 pandemic. How's the second quarter of the year treating you so far? We'd love to hear from you, so please type in the chat box or in the comment section. One thing for sure, since the COVID-19 pandemic started in 2020, cybercriminals have sought to take advantage as businesses move to rapid digitization with an overnight shift to remote working. When it comes to cyber attacks, hackers don't care how big your company is, they care how weak your security is. And they are more likely to target the companies with the weakest security, no matter how big or small they may be. Ransomware attacks can be particularly devastating. The average cost to recover from a ransomware attack has risen to more than $84,000, and it's estimated that businesses will fall victim to ransomware every 11 seconds by 2021. Cybercrime is a big problem, and cyber attacks get more sophisticated all the time. In this webinar, you will learn how Cisco can effectively assist your business to defend against ransomware and other cyber attacks by looking at 4 key points of entry and spread in your business. Start with people, look at connections, pay attention to email, and don't let malware spread. Alright, so before we begin, there are a few housekeeping matters to take note of. I'm sure as of now, most of us here are pretty familiar with online events, and as much as we strive to provide top quality production for all of our events, some things are just beyond our control. So please be patient if you experience any technical or internet glitches. If you need any assistance from us, you may chat with our events crew, or you can also email us at events@thestar.com.my. If you have any questions for our speaker, he will be addressing it towards the end of the webinar, so please do send us your questions. For WebEx viewers, you may post your questions in the chat box, and for those in Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, you may post it in the comment section. Lastly, and most importantly, please remember to engage, learn, and enjoy. Alright, I'm sure all of you are as excited as I am to kickstart the program. It gives me great pleasure to welcome our guest speaker. Raz Muhammad is the sales lead for Cisco Small Business, Commercial and Distribution Businesses in Southeast Asia. And Raz has been with Cisco for 12 years in various roles in both Singapore and London. Hi Raz, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Tasha. Thank you so much. And if we can pull up the slides. First and foremost, a big thank you to Star Media and Cisco Marketing and Communications for the event. Thank you so much for pulling this together in quick time. And as we pull up the slide, Ken, I will have one more person joining me to present today, Ken Ang, who runs security for us and works a lot with the distributors across Asia Pac. So thank you, Ken, for joining me today to run through some of the security products at Cisco. One other point, Ramadan Kareem, to all those observing Ramadan, may you have a blessed month. So today's topic is cybercrime protection. And more importantly, what do we do about it, right? And what can we do about it? It's such a hot topic right now. In the last year, it's been a very turbulent time for everyone across the globe. And I think cybercrime, more than anything, has never been hotter. Attacks are coming in from all across the globe. And it's been extremely difficult for a lot of companies, especially SMEs. So how do we protect our people, devices, email, and even your network from the threats that are basically coming in daily, as you just heard? So today's topic, as I said, is around cybercrime and cybersecurity, but there's 3 things I really want you to take away from today. Firstly, for those who don't know about Cisco, I'm going to talk a little bit around Cisco and Cisco's strategy. Second, what does SMEs and small business mean to Cisco? To give you some context, and what are we doing in that space? And then really bringing it together, Cisco Security, and how Cisco Security and its solutions can help protect you and your business. So if we go to the next slide. Thank you. Well, if anything, the world has really changed, right? And changed significantly in the last year. A lot of us now working from home. We are slowly transitioning back to the office in some countries, not all. It's been extremely difficult for pretty much everybody across the globe, right? It's changed how we work, how we live, the role of businesses, and even the needs of and expectations of consumers around the globe has changed. And that's had a really big impact on everybody. It's really made us sit back and really think about, oh, what's important here, right? How do we actually keep going? And in the last presentation I did recently, I was talking about sort of how do we get back, right? What do we need to do? Business resiliency. And the first thing is around creating movement. When we were in lockdown, and especially in Malaysia, where we were in lockdown, it made it very hard for businesses to operate, to communicate, to move. So you saw a big surge in collaboration technology. And that's as a result of our urgent need to actually to work together, to collaborate. And we saw that more and more. So that need to collaborate and communicate was never greater, and it surged in the last year. But at the same time, what that also did was it created a lot of exposure, and it's put a lot of us at risk as well, because we have more and more devices online, and we're looking at different ways to collaborate. But how do we bring that together in Cisco? So if we look at Cisco strategy, if you go to the next slide, just to give you some context as to how we actually pull this together in Cisco, our strategy and our entire focus as a company is to help customers connect, secure, and automate in a cloud-first world so that we can accelerate that digital agility. It's ironic that a few years, well, less than a year and a bit ago, the last presentation I did in Malaysia, I was talking about small business in Malaysia, and I was talking about the rise and how important small businesses were and how quickly they needed to digitalize. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we had to speed that up. What we were planning to do over 1 to 3 years, we've had to do in almost a space of 6 months. So it's been an amazing transition in the last year. But if we break down this strategy and we really look at what's important and how are we going to get there, we go to the next slide. Let's think about how do we connect. So in Cisco, how do we connect people? Well, we connect people with world-class enterprise-grade collaboration tools. WebEx is one example. That's what some of you are using right now. We connect users with devices, applications, and data with industry-defining networking and compute technology, and it brings people together. We're trying to enhance this performance and this collaboration experience almost up to 10x, as you've probably seen online in other platforms as well. And we're really trying to bring this together in a more secure way. And if you go to the next slide, you can see how we're going to do this, right? And here, you can see here, and we're going to talk a little bit more around security. You're going to have Ken really go into technology, but you can see there's a lot of any's in here. The intent here is to help our customers secure any user, any device on any application anywhere. And that's how we want to bring security together. We want it to be consistent. We want it to make sure it's across all your devices and protecting all your data all at the same time. And how are we going to do that, right? And that's something we're going to go through in a little while to give you some context on how we're going to do that. And then finally, on the next slide, just to pull it together, as we said, automate, right? Now, you may look at this and say automate is probably for the larger enterprise, and it is in some cases. But I think small organizations also need to look at how they're going to automate, right? And the key here is around visibility. All CIOs need visibility into pretty much every layer of infrastructure, including their network and their compute. The idea around this is they need to monitor and manage multiple environments and cloud permutations all at the same time. How are you going to do that? The only way to do that is start automating processes, having access to data, having access to quality data that will allow you to make decisions in a more timely manner, more accurate manner, and in a more secure manner. And that's how we're going to get there. But really what I wanted to get to in terms of this presentation is really the next slide, right? i.e. Cisco security for small business. And I really want to target SMEs here. So the last presentation, like I did back in January 2020, God almighty, it seems so long ago, I was talking a lot around what's important to businesses, what's important to SMEs. And if you go to the next slide, if you really think about SMEs, how are they different from large enterprises, right? They kind of need the same thing. They need digitalization, they need security, and they need mobility, right? The ability to be able to move around, work from wherever they are. And that's no different from large enterprises. The only difference between an SME and a large enterprise is really one, the ability to scale, two, number of resources, and three, let's be honest, is the budget, is the money, right? So Cisco embarked on creating a whole new segment in the company about 2 years ago, obviously pre-pandemic. And we created a segment called small business, right? And under that small business, we created some Cisco Design, which is really a curated set of products specifically for small businesses. And why do we do that? Let's have a look at the data, right? 2/3 of the world's global workforce is in the SME space. Up to 90% of the world's businesses are in SMEs, right? That gives you an idea. Half the world's GDP is in SMEs. To give you an additional data point, when we did a study with IDC and with the pandemic, now moving to the post-pandemic, up to 94% are now relying on IT. Up to 70% of businesses are accelerating their digitalization. And that's really important, right? And that's where Cisco will play a big part. But you may ask, what's in it for you, right? I.e. here, when we talk about Cisco, the idea here is to provide you the best of breed technology, a portfolio tailored for SMBs. And when we talk about security, we've got specific security products that will work for SMEs. We're giving you a taste of Cisco, and we will help you along on that journey. Again, we're working with partners and giving them training and enabling them and giving them collateral so they can actually support SMEs in Malaysia and other markets across Asia. And the most important part is really a simplified approach, simplified bundles, and really simplified pricing. And that's how we're going to do it. Now, let's go to where we were talking about. So that's small business and why we're doing it in Cisco. Now let's jump to security. If you go to the next slide, Ken. The state of security, right? What is happening right now? And this is where it's really important. And an analogy I used recently was of car insurance. And someone said to me, why do we need to do it now? Why do we need to invest in security? And I think a good analogy from my CTO recently was talking about car insurance. When things are going great, you're not thinking about insurance. You're thinking about what else is going on in the day. The minute you have an accident or a crash, all of a sudden you wish and pray you had the best insurance. And this is how security is the same way. When you're compromised, you're wishing you had security. You're wishing you were covered. You're wishing you had the data backed up. But if you don't, you've left yourself in a world of trouble. And now in the world we're in right now, where data is almost like the new oil, it's imperative that you protect your data and protect your devices on all fronts. And this is where Cisco can help you. Now, how important is security to small businesses? Now, if you go to the next slide, excuse me, to give you some context on how it's going to work, 76% of small businesses worldwide have already reported a cyber attack. 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses, and up to 87% of small businesses and executives say security is a high priority. And that percentage was 80% in Malaysia, to give you some context. Now, these numbers are very big, but why are they important? It shows you because this is important because it's an opportunity for people who do want to go after people's networks. They think a lot of SBs are underprotected, right? And the SB market, as I just showed you, is huge. 2/3 of the world's economy is in the SME space. So it is a big market. There are many, many, many SMEs. Are SMEs protected though? A lot of them don't want to invest in security because they think it's expensive. But think about the repercussions if you don't, when you don't have data. One of the biggest things that we saw during the pandemic was all of us were in a lockdown, that inability to move and sort of collaborate really stifled sort of our ability to sort of, create opportunity and figure out what we want to do next. The minute we found a way to get around that, i.e. using technology, be it collaboration technology, we started talking, we started thinking about other ways to do things. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. Security will be that enabler. It will protect you and allow you to grow and focus on the parts of your business that are important. And that's how we want to do it. Now, if we go to the next slide to really think about where we are. And this is where it really comes together. And before I hand off to my esteemed co-partner here, Ken, I want to talk a little bit around cybercrime and the protection that we have. It's imperative that we protect the business from cyber attacks. And generally, it's across 4 areas, right? It's across 4 areas: people, devices, email, and the network. And it's imperative that we actually protect the business on all these fronts. We have access to data. We have information. Employees want to share emails. They want to share access to, they want to share data. This is imperative. We do not want to stop that. And you want your teams to keep on doing that, regardless of whether they're at home or whether they're at the office, right? And as we transition from home back to the office and somewhere in between, and from the reports we're seeing right now, we're seeing that going forward, we'll see at least 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 people possibly working from a different location on all calls. And that's something we got to be aware of, right? And as we do that, how do we actually secure? So how do we secure and protect data? That's key. How do we protect users and their devices, right? From threat detection, cloud, right? Cloud delivered security, There's a lot of access to cloud now, people accessing cloud in multiple ways. And then the last one is more around prevention and detection and containing. So the way I summarize this slide for me, it's really around one, making sure you have visibility. Second is simplicity, keeping it simple. And the third one is protection, right? Making sure you understand how you're protected and where you're protected. One of the big challenges with SMEs have right now, they're working with multiple vendors. The problem with that is you've now got to make sure all of those vendors have up-to-date security. And that's where the challenges begin, right? Because then you've got to make sure every single one of those applications is updated. Working with one solid security vendor, such as Cisco, will allow you to have security across all your applications, across all your architectures. And that's something we're trying to build. Now, if you go to the next slide, and before I hand off to our esteemed Ken Ang, I do want to talk to you a bit around sort of the most important parts here, how you're going to do it, right? How do we help small businesses prioritize security? And again, I keep coming back to this comment of insurance. Anything that stops your business, anything that stops you from moving, anything that kind of stops you from really working has a big impact on your business. SMEs thrive on moving very quickly. The big differentiator between SMEs and sort of large enterprises is their ability to move quick, make decisions quick, provide sort of customized services. This will be severely prohibited if you are, if you're compromised, if your security is compromised. And that's why it's imperative we get it right. So the first one is around people and really making sure you protect your people in terms of making sure you understand who is accessing your systems, right? Are they who they say they are? And how do you do that? Well, Cisco Duo is one technology that will help you do that. And again, that two-step factor authentication is something Ken's going to go through in a minute, but it will give you an idea of what you can do to protect your people and making sure that people that are accessing your network, are working with your people, are who they say they are. The second is around devices, right? People get onto your network in multiple ways. We have multiple devices now. Even at home, I have 3 devices right now. I have a phone, I have a computer, and I have an iPad as well with me as well. So if you have a mobile or remote workforce, they may be connecting to the office or a home laptop or even a mobile device. You need something to protect that as well, protect the endpoints. And again, Cisco Advanced Malware Protection is something you can use to block malware and viruses. And again, that's something you must put in place to ensure that your devices are protected. The third one, everyone uses email, right? Virtually every business uses email. Every day, people inadvertently click malicious links. I've seen many, I'm sure you have all seen many. Our spam folder is probably full, but how do you actually manage that? And this is where CMD, Cloud Mailbox Defense, which is a cloud-native email platform for Office 365 that you can use, and if you can set it up in 5 minutes, it's that easy. And again, Ken's going to run through that and give you some context as to how that can help your business stay secure. And the last one is the network, right? The most important part is the network here. Now, in the past, you would be working in the office, all your IT department, or even yourself would have to do is secure one area, which is a network. We're now in multiple places. It's spread, right? So once a virus hits your network or your network is being infiltrated, you're now hitting a lot of people very, very quickly. And that's extremely dangerous. And that's something we don't want to do. So how do we protect ourselves against that? We take a 2-pronged approach. We use Cisco Umbrella, which provides flexible, fast, and effective cloud delivered security that blocks requests to sites like ransomware, etc. And you got Cloud Meraki, which offers cloud management with security features such as firewalling, content filtering, intrusion detection, and much more. So these are some of the things we can pull together. But I wanted you guys to have an insight as to how this could actually work for you. So I'm going to hand off to Ken. Ken, do you want to walk us through how we can actually use this technology in a live environment and how people can use this to secure their business?
Hi, Russ. Just before we move on to Ken, we've got a question from the floor. They ask if we are just a cybersecurity company. So maybe you just want to just give them a few words as to who we are and what do we really do.
No, absolutely not. No, we're not a cybersecurity company. We do a lot of IT. So a lot of Cisco is synonymous with being in networking. We were primarily a networking company, but we have branched out. So a large part of networking, we do networking, collaboration, security, data center. I mean, today's topic is all around security and really security around the SME space. But no, we focus on multiple technologies and multiple architectures. Right now, hot topic is security, and that's what we're sort of heavily focusing on that. Thank you, Yinting.
Okay, thanks, Russ. Over to you, Ken.
Hey, thanks, Russ. Thanks, Intake. So, yep. And I think Russ has said it very, very well in terms of why business needs cybersecurity. And I'm gonna just basically take the various threats and the various security solution that Cisco has a little bit a notch deeper, right? So let's quickly switch gear and drill down into the 4 key areas, right? That Res spoke about and the importance of it to the small businesses today, right? So I think key area number 1, right? People is our greatest asset, but unfortunately they are also the most exposed to cyber attacks, right? And with today's environment whereby data, assets, applications are no longer only on premise. It could be on a cloud, right? Take out a credit card, purchase a service online, store your data there, right? So therefore, you basically expose some of this critical data outside your conventional network. So it's become very, very important because the first identity or the first gate is the people logging in, right? The user credential or the user identity. So no longer you have a parameter defense and you're protected just by the network devices, right? If you are subscribing to a SaaS application, the only way that determines whether you can have access to that data, which might be critical to the business, is the user or the people or the person. So you need to basically now be able to say that, hey, Ken, I'm logging into a sensitive information. Is he who he say he is, right? And if you look at the threat reports or the data breaches report out there, you see that a huge percentage of data breaches are identity or credential related. Therefore, username and password is no longer sufficient. For those of you who goes to the YouTube or the internet well enough, right, and search for all these malicious activities, you see tons of videos, tons of articles that show you how easy it might be, right, to do whether a phishing, a smishing or a vishing, right? Some jargons that are thrown out there, which I'll explain while I go down the slides, right? How easy it is to steal username and password. So the first factor, which is username and password, is no longer enough, right, to identify the user as who he is, right? And therefore, right, with Cisco Duo, we basically help to add a more secure two-factor authentication to the whole equation, to basically verify identity, right? The person that you trust your critical information or assets with, right? So that is one key area why if you as a customers have not done any implementation or thought process around that, it is critical. And especially for small business like Res mentioned, right? It's heavily under attacks because they are usually understaffed, under budget, right? To basically keep their network, their data, and their application secure. Right. And then the next question that, understanding the risks, right? And I'll drill a little bit more onto some of the key points. But more importantly, one of the key questions that, we get asked a lot is, why Cisco? Why Cisco Duo? There's a lot of other products out there. Was just in a call this morning to say, hey, Apple also has its own two-factor authentication for consumer, right? So there are tons of products out there that has 2FA. So why Cisco Duo? So one of the key things, right, about Cisco Duo, right, not only we are in the consortium of FIDO, if you know what FIDO does in terms of biometrics, multi-factor authentication, it's an open community that talks about how does technology helps to protect user identity. We are a huge contributor over there, and we are a couple of the pioneers, right, in the multi-factor authentication arena. And like the way that products are being designed today, Cisco Duo is designed with user in mind, right? And that's why you can see the top 3 points over here is the ability to allow company to easily and instantaneously integrate Duo into their application to protect the data, the assets they have, right? And with Duo, right, especially with the push notification factor, right, as a second factor, which you and I, we use that every day, right? Whether it's WhatsApp, any of the, even WebEx, right? You get, notification popping up on your mobile phone and you basically tap on that. and you read that, right? So the user experience is seamless, right? So users are very accustomed to that pop-up notification. So Duo MFA allows users to quickly verify and make sure that the person that is logging in is who he say he is, right? And at the same time, it's seamless because all they need to do is tap on the push notification, click on approve, they get access over on top their username and password, and it's authenticated in seconds, right? And for those of you who have been doing been used to SMS, and in Malaysia, I believe you have the tag, SMS notification from the bank if you do 2FA. And one of the key things that was highlighted by my colleague earlier on was that how often does people actually accidentally type the number wrongly? A 6-digit push notification, you might type the digit wrongly, right? Just because the phone might be smaller. So, but with dual push notification, all they need is 2-step, right? Tap on the push notification, tap on approve, you are in, right? Very seamless, frictionless approach, right? So that helps because at the end of the day, instead of security being a prohibitor, right? Stopping user from doing their day-to-day tasks, creating a lot more friction, dual multi-factor authentication eliminates that while protecting the users, right? And basically making sure that the assets that the user are accessing are protected as well, because now you have a second factor to prove that the person accessing that is who he say he is, right? So that is very, very key because especially for small businesses, simplicity and ease of use is critical to adoption and to protection, right? So, on top of the user experience, the other questions that we talk about a little bit beyond just MFA is that why, right? So like I've mentioned, right, 80% of security breaches involve some kind of compromised password, right? And one of the key things we want to basically look at, and if you follow Cisco's blog on Duo, we are now in the era of even going beyond password, right? We're talking about MFA passwordless, right? To further improve security, enhance user experience, and reduce friction. And it's always good to start with multi-factor authentication. And that should be in everybody's implementation today, right? Every time you want to launch a product or you want to basically start to collect data, you should have that in place because that is the first level of protection that you should have, right? And if you basically build upon that, right, to the level of what we spoke about in terms of devices and stuff. Now, to basically be able to even identify whether it's a jailbroken phone, whether the system that is trying to log in is basically updated with the latest patch, which is in line with malware infections, device management, right? But Duo provides that ability for you to start simple and grow, right, to an enterprise-grade security solution without a lot of the friction that a lot of the product out there is basically putting onto the user and the businesses today, right? So that's pretty much on user, on people, on Duo, right? So the key is critical, but the other thing that is causing a huge challenge and impact, especially for the IT administrator, the security administrator, and if you work with MSPs who are managing your infrastructure, the other key critical headache, right, that everybody has is devices, right? Like Ross mentioned, right? He probably have a couple of devices that he use every day, right? For me, I have about 7 devices I have in my house today. Out of which 6 of them are turned on right now, right? So the number of devices that are out there today is crazy, right? I mean, especially when technologies become so easy, right? If you're on a smart home, you have critical smart IoTs, and 3 devices to a user is a prediction, right? That's why we are looking at by 2025, we probably have about more than 30 billion connected devices, non-IoT devices, right? And we have not added on IoT devices. So imagine that complexity, the threat and the attack surface, meaning to say that no malware can be installed, right, without a device, right? So the criticality of being able to quickly, right, install and protect the devices that your employees are using is critical, right? And imagine the number of devices without that ability to quickly block, implement, and detect, right, potential malware infection. it is a nightmare, right, for IT administrator to try and do any form of protection, and not to mention about remediation and threat response, because the reason why you want to stop malware is because they might be stealing information, they might be doing ransomware activities, encrypting your devices so that you cannot do your day-to-day business. The threats of malware is a whole huge long list, right? And the number of devices make your job and my job 10 times more complex. And that's why you can see how important, right? Advanced malware protection for endpoint is important, right? Not to mention about your mobile devices that you are using to check your email, your iPads or your tablets that you're using for presentation. This all adds on to the criticality and the complexity that you already have. Right. So why Cisco M for endpoint, right? So one of the key things you will realize about a lot of this solution we talk about today, right, is SaaS native, right? What does it mean, right? SaaS native, what does it mean when you are on the cloud? It means to the small business, I don't have to spend another $1,000 on the cheapest server to host a management software, right? Like the dashboard you see right here in the screen that gives you the report on, what are the threats, what are the machines being compromised and attacks, potential activity. So imagine that you want to basically be able to look at the threats that you're facing without having to invest additional money on hardware, software, and not to mention, right, the operating costs that goes with managing that physical or the on-premise management devices. The last thing you want is that there is an attack and you're busy trying to get the server up and running, right? So SaaS solution takes away all that. They are perpetually up 24/7, right? And why is that important? Because you want to be able to identify the most evasive malware that could be coming in, right? You want to make sure that your laptops, your mobile devices are protected so that your employees can book the largest order out there or could attend to a customer problem immediately, right? So the ability to quickly identify, right, and stop any form of malware infection or even spreading, right, of malware that has already, affected the device in your network. It is critical that you need to have a endpoint security in place, and something simple is critical to these small businesses. Right. So switching gear, right? We talk about people, we talk about, devices. The next area, which is still.
Sorry, Ken. Maybe you can take a few questions because I think some of them have actually questions on the previous two sections.
Sure.
I think one of it is, with Duo, can we enable PIN codes in Duo if you want to? User might just accidentally tap approve without checking the details.
Yeah, we can, right? Good question, right? In that aspect, the push notification is really more towards a frictionless approach. We do provide multiple modes of authentication, whether it's a one-time password, which is a PIN code kind of access. You can even do voice call and stuff, right? So the various mode of second factor authentication is there. Right, and one of the things that join me in my one of my demo session is that the good thing about the push notification is that it also actually on the device itself share with you what application you're logging into and where you're logging in from, right? So it actually gives you the visibility, right? If you educate the user to take a look at it before they click on approve, right? Short answer, we have more than just push notification, right? Hope that answers the question on Duo.
Okay, just one more question before I move on. Can Cisco cybersecurity solution work with my current environment, or do I need to change out everything?
Very good question. So one of the best thing about Duo is that if you go to our website, we have hundreds of applications that can be integrated out of the box. Integrating with existing infrastructure, if you're not using an ancient dinosaur systems, the likelihood of us integrating it is there.
Okay. Yeah, we take the rest of the questions towards the end.
Sure, perfect. Right. Okay, so now switching gear, right, over to email, right? Email is still the widest used form of communication today, and that's why the key topic of email, protection, right? And one of the things that we are seeing, right, Office 365 is one of the largest mail hosting provider out there. I think the last statistic that I checked, probably a couple of quarters back, they were over 70% of the hosted mail provider out there, right? So with that, what it means is that like our, Windows system, right? Why is it the most attacked operating system, right? And the answer is very simple, right? They are the most widely used operating system. Why would you go for something that nobody use, right? Because you're not going to basically gain much out of it. Remember, cyber criminal like you and I today are out there to make money, right? So they are always going after the top product that they can compromise, right? Office 365 being the what most widely used hosted email solution out there, it is also the most attacked solution out there. And so if you look at Gartner, they talk about email supplementary security, right? Which is what Cloud Mailbox Defense is. What it does, it helps to add a layer of defense or protection on top of what Office 365 have today. So one of the very common questions that I get a lot when talking to customers and partners is that, hey, Office 365 already has spam in place. It moves some of the malicious email to the junk folder, right? So in those demos that the team has been showing you, you will realize that there are, no matter how secure a solution is, there are bound to be cracks that they fall through. And that's why email being the widest form of spam and phishing attacks, right? It is important to add layer. In the event that something falls through, what is natively in Office 365, you want a solution like Cisco Cloud Mailbox Defense to be there to catch it and to move it into junk or delete it before the user have a chance to click on it and get himself to a malicious website and get infected. Or even worse, download a malicious attachment and install malware into the system, right? And that is one key areas of filtering. And why, right? Like I mentioned, because the attack surface, and it is still one of the most used attack out there, right? So it's important to look at email, right? And things like ransomware, malware, a lot of time starts with a malicious email that is sent to the user. So what does Cloud Mailbox Defense do, right? In a very simple, short, pictorial slide like this, right? What you see below on that is red is what we are trying to protect, right? Against malware directly being sent through email, phishing links, right? Business executive compromise email that are doing spear phishing attack at your CEO or your manager, or even unnoticingly, internal employee sharing, malware to internal mailboxes. And the most critical one, which is very, very important, because that's what happens, when infiltration happen, right? Account takeover, somebody getting access to your user account, right? So Cloud Mailbox Defense seeks to address that, right? And protect the users who are, protected by Cloud Mailbox Defense. And one of the key things to the team today in terms of malware protection, it scans for known malware, it scans for malicious URL as it goes through. And I'll share with you how all these solutions that we talk about comes together right at the end, saving the best for the last, right? So that's pretty much on the email. Something that we're not touching on today on the communication or the secure communication piece through email. One of the more interesting topic that we're hearing a lot more questions about is basically secure collaboration, right? Messages, attachment being sent through WebEx Teams, right? Space, right? So similar technology is there to protect that communication channel. We're happy to drill down further, in case you have questions. But the key of identifying, and protecting communication channel like emails and stuff is really come down to, especially for small businesses, the visibility, right? What are the attacks that are happening? What are the campaigns, right, that the hackers are basically, launching, right? So visibility is really, really critical, because that helps you to know what threats are coming. The next thing that are critical for small businesses, or even for any businesses, is the simplicity of deployment configuration. You want to have the visibility, you want to basically be able to turn on quickly, right? Like right after this session, you put a PO to Cisco, you want that mailbox protection to be up in 5 minutes, like Res mentioned, and you can have it, right? And that's one of the key part in terms of why security and how should we make it easy for the user. Integration part, right? Natively we integrate with Office 365, but more importantly, right, as we go through the various solutions, right, the key integration is with threat intelligence, which I'll talk about in a minute, right? The APIs that allows me to do a little bit more analysis, and more importantly, for a little bit more matured, security posture, right, is really also how do I take all this data, right, that I'm seeing from people, devices, and email, and figure a way to respond to threats, right? So these are some of the key things, right, that we talk about, and where the solution or the value of cloud mailbox defense comes in, right? To protect, to simplify, to contain, to prevent, and to allow you to integrate easily and quickly with your existing infrastructure. Right, and then the next area, which is actually one of the key area, and it's a complex area of concern, right? Like Raz mentioned, network is no longer just a single, maybe a single HQ. I mean, the network parameter has been redefined greatly, right? And for those of you who are hearing the recent adoption of things like SD-WAN. So what does SD-WAN stand for, right? Software defined wide area network. It's still a network. It's just that the network has grown beyond just a simple office and maybe to one branch office to what is out there across multiple office, across multiple towns, city, and multiple countries. And on top of that, across your cloud or your SaaS infrastructure, right? So, and that's why it is becoming critical, right, that you protect all these various places, physical or virtual, right, whereby your assets, your information are being stored, right? And how do you do that, right? And to start off with, from a simple approach, right? For businesses, it's all about how do I keep my data available to my user and to my customer, whether I'm selling things like online shopping store, or I could be running a enterprise grade complex logistic system, right? We all have data and it's spammed across multiple locations. How can I quickly deploy things like a firewall, right? A Meraki MX appliance, right? Across multiple locations, even without having somebody on site, right? That means I might deliver there, get the sales guy there to connect up a box and get instant protection for the network, right? That my critical assets and informations are being stored, right? Things like this are critical, right? And of course, we all know, network security, one of the key things is to keep bad people out, right? So that the data that I'm storing in my branch office, whereby I'm doing $1 million worth of, point of sales are protected, right? So that's where MX comes in, right? It gives you the capability to protect on-prem, branch network, right? And even SaaS solution, right? And giving you the same firewalling, content filtering, intrusion detection solution out there. And the best is it is fast and easy. The next thing which comes, right? And that is something critical because today, bandwidth, although it's becoming cheaper, is still a huge cost, right? Running cost. So those of you who sign up for, a 500, Meg link for your branch office, you know that the business link are much more expensive than your corporate network, than your home network, right? So how do I look at balancing security from a network perspective, right? Preventing bad guys from coming in, but at the same time, right, when users are accessing, right, web pages, right, they are looking at databases, they are checking out customer relationship management, or even just looking at news, right, that helps them in their business. How are they protected, right, without going back to the headquarters, right? Going a little bit more technical, right? In the past, how usually hub and spoke are being deployed is that I have HQ and I have VPN back to the HQ, and all the traffic comes back to the HQ so that the traffic are being scanned before it goes out, right? And it is being protected. But today with branch, SASE, secure access, service edge, we are looking at how do I give user direct access to the internet, right? Without having to come back to the corporate network. We save costs, save bandwidth, right? And improve performance, right? For the network, right? And also enhance the security. And that's where Umbrella comes in, whereby it allows user to do safe browsing, right? A very commonly used term for web browser today. So that while you're being protected on the network, when the user are accessing, right, websites, they are also protected and blocked from accessing malicious link, whereby they could have their credential being stolen or malware being downloaded, right? So that is a very simplified conversation on network security, right? SD-WAN, right? SASE, that is basically taking the region by storm, right? Just because of the way things are, right? And one of the key things that I always encourage small businesses to start off with is really at least get your DNS layer security up, right? Which are, one of the demos that I usually show is that a very quick proof of value that you can see in some of the videos that's online is that if a user who has Cisco Umbrella protected and a user who doesn't have, right, you can instantaneously see the difference, because Umbrella on the DNS layer, which is basically, going to, let's say, www.google.com, right? If a user is clicking on a malicious link, right, and it goes into a malicious website, Umbrella upfront can block the access. That means that the user do not even get exposed, right, to the risk of reaching the website, right? So that is a key thing. And of course, when we look at security in depth, the basic is always DNS security, but you have a lot of more advanced attack happening today. Whether it's hackers looking at the origin of the traffic, or they are looking at ports, protocols, application that are basically routed through the network for the web access, right? Those are critical advanced threat. And even on the layer 7 kind of application security, DLP, right? So those are the key things that with Umbrella, you can start with DNS, security, and advance, right? Depending on the requirements and the maturity of the security posture that you have, right? And add on more important and critical protection. But nevertheless, you need to start somewhere, and DNS layer security is where it is the fastest and the easiest to start. And coming to a summary of the people, the device, the email, the network, right? Why Cisco, right? That's one thing I always like to ask customer or to share with customer, right? The key that you see just now in terms of whether it's protecting, or logging in, multi-factor authentication, prevention of malware installation onto a device, or even like Umbrella that is preventing access to the malicious website. One of the key things that all this solution needs to be, right, is to be integrated, right? And integrated, I'm not talking about Umbrella integrating with your current network device, right? Or M for endpoint can be installed into your current device, right? That is given, right? The key part of this fight against cyber criminal is, do I have the intelligence out there, right? Or is my solution today giving me the intelligence for it to work across all the multiple key areas or all the multiple threat vectors, right, that we talk about, jargon again, right? In terms of how do I basically make sure that my email protection is smarter than the next product out there? How is my Umbrella is smarter than next product out there? And can all this product be protected and the information be shared? Right? Sharing is always good, right? The bad guys love to share, exploit. The good guys, unfortunately, likes to protect what is good, right? So the sharing of threat intelligence is critical. We need to really start sharing, the threat that we see globally, right? And then add it into the various product that you have, whether you're protecting people, devices, or your network, or even your email. And that's where it brings us to, the next topic. But more importantly, not going to sound like a broken record, visibility, simplicity, protection, controls, you get it, right? We need to keep things simple. But more importantly, what differentiate us, right, from the next solution out there, right? So Talos is a Cisco global threat research and intelligence solution out there. It is the largest non-government base, right? So I won't be saying that we are much better than the top government space out there, but from a commercial, right, or even an open source kind of threat intelligence out there, we are the best. Why? Right? So for those of you who are a little bit more into security, you know that the amount of data, the amount of threats, attacks out there are in the billions, right? If not hourly, it's daily, right? The amount of attacks that are going through the internet today is huge. Probably every second you get an attack somewhere in the world. So Cisco, we have the largest visibility, and of course, right, to rest, conversation, or Cisco is a network company, right? But we are also very good at security. And why? Because we basically provides most of the connection in the world today, right? And with that, together with our partners, whether it's the telcos, the open source community, we get the amount of data that are being put into our threat research and automated analysis, AI and stuff is amazing. 120 terabytes of data received daily, right? Millions of telemetry agents, meaning to say that it could be agents with plant across the world, or even, information that are basically augmented by telcos, our partners, right? And billions of malware links, spam emails, DNS requests out there, and, tons of threat intelligence partners that are feeding into our threat intelligence system that allows us to filter automatically, right? Categorize them. And at the end of the day, right, human is still a critical part of our ecosystem, right? One day robots may take over the world, but today we still need human. And we have one of the largest, full-time threat intel researchers, which basically further analyze it. So for those of you who have not subscribed to Talos and been onto a Talos session, do join them. And you can see that they actually did go down into deep analysis, right? Whether it's a recent couple of email-based attack for one of the mail provider or the logistic chain attack. It will even tell you what are the threat indicators that you can see. And more importantly, right, all this threat intelligence that you see here is being provided, right, to whether it's dual, whether it's M for endpoint, whether it's our network security or email security. All this threat intelligence will tell you that the world's largest campaign, right, that is maybe attacking the banks, right, whether it's a rat, malware, or any of the malware campaign that's huge out there, it gives you that threat intelligence. And that threat intelligence is being basically applied across all Cisco security products, right? And that is the power, because you as, a small business, right, does not have the wallet, right, to basically spend, couple of hundreds or thousands or millions of dollars of security, right? Which is where the big guys, tend to have that, right? So the same kind of threat intelligence that is provided to the enterprise, to the government, right, to the banking space, right, is now available at all our products that we have just shared. And that gives you the ability to look at the threats, right, and to be able to consume that and protect it without having to hire a whole team of SOC analysts, and a very big budget just to protect threat, right? I always say small businesses, their key focus is to keep the business alive, which is availability. And if security breach happen, it stops availability, and make money to keep the business competitive, right? So with the Cisco Talos, right, it gives you that enterprise-grade threat intelligence to augment, right, the products that you have and to give you the ease and the peace of mind, right? Of course, you still need to have either MSP or IT staff, right? Human is still important. The technology is great, but it is there to help you offload the burden that your IT administrator has, and to take away some of the budget or to reduce the budget you need to spend. So I think that's key in terms of what Cisco brings, right? And like the number said itself, right? The number of threats that are being blocked in a day, the number of emails that are inspected, and the number of even malware sample, right? So this to a lot of laymen like you and me, it doesn't mean a lot of things, right? But if you go talk to the threat analysts, you talk to the security guys, these are amazingly large numbers, right? That we are basically protecting, we are helping customers today. And Talos is the brain, right, in all of the security intelligence among all the products that we have today. And that is by itself something that that is unique and powerful to Cisco itself, right? So that is very much on the intelligent piece. Of course, the other piece that I always love, in talking to customers and partners, and one of the key things that what you see here on the Meraki side of things, it really amplifies the SD-WAN, the network piece together. Today, regardless of where your business operate, you need some form of products, right? Whether it's network security appliances, visibility, and even IoT today in terms of video surveillance. So one of the critical set of solutions that you really need to look at, right, if you are looking at operating a simple protected kind of network, is Meraki, right? It gives you the ability from a single dashboard to protect your users from all the threats that we talk about, whether it's from the people, from a device, right, from a network perspective, And of course, the integrations are there, right? And you can basically use, like, for example, Duo integrating with Meraki dashboard to make sure that you enhance the protection. Because one of the concerns that people always have is, if my system is in the cloud, how can I further protect it, right? Adding a multi-factor authentication, right? It is not this silver bullet to all the problem, but it is one step, closer for you to create a perfect security world, right? Hopefully we get there some days, but for a start, keep it simple, keep you protected, keep the threat contained, right? So simplifying IT is there. And for those of you who are aware, security, one of the CISSP or CIA triad, right? Availability is equally important, right? So you want to be able to look at all the threats, even onto the availability of the business. And that's where Meraki management comes in. And stay tuned, right? There are a lot of enhancements and integration. And that's the beauty of today's SaaS world, right? A lot of these top-notch capabilities are being added almost on a daily or a monthly or a weekly basis. Right. So, just to do a quick recap on what I've just mentioned. So how do I protect my user from malware, right? Simple answer, we have AMP that allows you to install across all the various devices to protect and prevent malware from being installed, right? Email, we have Cloud Mailbox Defense to help you spiff out and delete all the malicious email. Umbrella is critical because with that, you get to see where are the potential malicious website, right? And it will stop that. And it gives you the visibility to the applications and some of the things out there. And last but not least, dual security, is critical because username and password are no longer sufficient, right? It gets stolen very easily. So with that, I've come to my end of presentation, and over back to you, Ras.
Okay, I think we've
So
got a
much.
few questions from the floor. Maybe we can take some of it in the final 10 minutes. Okay, we've got one that is asking about, share a few on our Cloud Mailbox Defense. So the one's asking if we can protect emails that are not on 365 platform.
Short answer, not at the moment. We are definitely exploring, other platforms as well, because, we start with the most critical one first, right? Or the most profitable one.
Okay, so another very generic question is how do we overcome cybersecurity attacks from hackers around the world, be it from the laptop or desktop during the COVID-19 situation and for some businesses?
You've come to the right session, right? What we just talked about, right? The couple of little products that you see out there, I'll say it's simple little products, is that start with, protecting credential with a multi-factor authentication, the umbrella piece, and the advanced malware protection piece, right? So for remote workers, right, the recommendation is have some of this, what we just shared, right, installed and configured, right? So that when the remote workers, regardless of where they are, right, they might be on corporate network or they might be from home, what we shared just now will keep the user protected, right? And the three key areas, malware, connection, and emails, right? That gets the remote worker protected. Start with that. And if all else fail, start with umbrella, I always say, right? Because right from the start, you get that stoppage of access to malicious link, which is a huge part of where malware is being spread.
Okay, moving on to the next question from Shamini. With public Wi-Fi services, what can we do to protect ourselves from hackers, especially hackers who access our email, but impersonate us and send fake emails?
Okay, great question, right? Instead of putting the responsibility on you and me, which is user that are connecting to Wi-Fi, I will always recommend, right? Like Meraki MX, right? For people, for businesses who are offering Wi-Fi, right? It's actually our responsibility to make sure that the Wi-Fi is being protected, right? Two things. Make sure that the communication on the Wi-Fi is encrypted, the traffic going through the wireless network is encrypted. Secondly, they should have things like DNS security in place. If the user tries to access malicious website, right, or malware that are being downloaded, which is the cause of a lot of the stolen data and even the fake users and stuff like that, right? So if the business were to implement that in place, right, it will help user like you and me, right, to use public Wi-Fi. But of course, the key part, if we take away all the products and the responsibility of the businesses, never connect to a Wi-Fi that are not encrypted, right? So that's one of the recommendation.
Okay. Sure. Okay, another few more questions. This one is on how can we be sure that our sensitive information related to clients remain confidential and safe from being shared with third party when working with Cisco?
Wow, that is a 3 hours discussion.
Maybe
I'll let Russ
maybe I
take
can
it.
answer it. Yeah, maybe I can answer it in part. So Cisco does publish this on how we use our data. So there's trust.cisco.com where we actually cite kind of what data is used for. So at least it's very clear and very transparent on how it's used.
Okay. There's another one, will Cisco solutions like Duo protect enterprises where the mobile devices belong to the retail customers where enterprises has no control?
Sorry, can you just repeat that?
Okay.
It was a
Will
long
Cisco
question.
solutions like Duo protect enterprises where mobile devices belong to retail customers? That means to the customers.
Okay.
Where their enterprises their businesses has no control.
Yeah. Short answer, possible, right? The long answer, contact us, right? We will get into a drawing board because B2C, B2B, right, are some of the key terms that you use. Protecting users that are not or devices that are not corporate or like consumer themselves. It seems it's the same as BYOD, right? You user today on the business are using a device, right? Short answer is we can. Long answer is we need a proper approach to that. So contact us and we can do a deep dive on that.
Okay, there's one question which is very interesting. What's the general budget for implementing all the tools that you've shared? SMEs are very sensitive to cost, so we need to consider the initial down payment plus the annual subscription fee.
Okay. So, Russ, you want to take a shot at that on the dollars and cents?
It varies, depends on what you're buying, how you're buying it. I have got one though for you. We do offer 0% financing right now in Malaysia, right now for this current quarter, and I'm going to try and secure it for Q4, which is the next 3 months. Something I think businesses should take advantage of if you can. We know how tough it is for businesses out there at the moment. We're doing everything we can, honestly, to try and help. We are pricing and sort of managing our business accordingly to at least help and support SMEs in Malaysia.
Yeah. Okay, so final 2 questions. How do we know if Wi-Fi is encrypted?
Okay, I think we need to start charging professional service for that. Just kidding, right? So things like WPS, WPA, right? So the simplest way to look at it is that I would say when you log on, right, to a let's say a Starbucks portal, right, and they say key in the username and password and you get connected. The first thing that you see telltale sign of a problem is that it's HTTP instead of HTTPS, right? So that is one. It's not the only form, but it's the fastest that you and I can identify. Now, if you go into the more technical details, there are 1,001 ways that you can actually leverage on what you have, but it's a session for a technical deep dive.
Okay. One final question. How often and how frequent do they need to update if they are actually on our Cisco cybersecurity solution?
Perfect, right? So 2 parts on that. One is that if you're on SaaS, you don't have to worry about the management software. The client software you still need to update, right? But we are definitely not as high as the biggest vendor out there who does patch every Tuesday or every alternate Tuesday. So there's no fixed number, right? In terms of the patch, a lot of time, we do have follow a strategy in place, whether it's a month, 3 months, or 6 months, depending on its critical short-term vulnerability and stuff, right? So there's no fixed answer to that, but we definitely do not provide as many as what you are facing today for your key operating system.
Yeah. Okay, one and final question from Vincent. Do you have a catalog or cost of Cisco cybersecurity products and solutions mentioned from this webinar? I think if you look at the QR code on the screen now, the one at the top, just scan into it and you'll see what we have for you. Okay, that's all we have from the questions. Any last words from you, Russ or Ken?
Ken, you want to go first and I'll close out?
Well, to me, it's really like what Ying Tian say, right? There are promotions today, leverage on it. You'll be surprised. The solution that we mentioned here, it is not as expensive as everybody thinks, right? So click on the promotion, go visit it. I mean, that will be a key one for me, right? And then feel free to reach out to us if you need a further dive. Back to you, Ras.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Look, first and foremost, thank you to everyone. The only point I want to make, really just to summarize it, attacks, as you heard from Ken and you heard it from me earlier, are getting more sophisticated. There are more and more in terms of volume as well. Do protect your data, do protect your company. Like we said, we do have solutions for you. Please try and use the QR code here. We have got a great team back end who can help you. We can customize solutions for you as well, for your business, to help you. Do fill in the feedback form as well and give us your feedback. We're very keen to help you. One of the reasons why we're doing this webinar is really to help businesses and really help them, one, get back on their feet, stay on their feet, and start running is kind of really what I want to get to. And I think somebody was asking earlier around, are we security? Security is a big part of our company. I'll be very clear here. It goes across all our architecture. So it just shows you how important it is, right? And which is why myself and Ken are doing this webinar. So, but again, last but not least, thank you so much for your time, team. I really do want to thank you all for joining, and thank you for the support team here as well.
Thank you.
Okay, back to you, Tasha.
Thank you, Ras, Ken, and Yinteng for the Q&A session. And thanks to both Ras and Ken for the wonderful presentation earlier. We are definitely very humbled and honored with your participation. And we are almost coming to the end of today's session, and we hope you have enjoyed and benefited from this webinar. We just have one final request from you, which is to share your thoughts with us about today's webinar by completing a short survey. To complete the survey, you just need to scan the QR code that is on your screen right now, or go to bit.ly/Cisco feedback. Your feedback is very important for us in order for us to keep providing you with better event experiences. The solution to protecting your business from cyber attacks should cover 4 essential areas of protection. Once you have completed the survey, we will send you a link to try Cisco's free solutioning tool to understand what you need for your business objectives. As a continuation from this cybercrime protection webinar, we will also be running the next webinar on 27th May at 2 p.m., where we'll be covering the shift to digital seamless security for small business and seamless integrations powered by Meraki platform. We encourage you to save the date and pre-register for the next webinar by indicating your interest in the survey. Please also help to share about the webinar with your colleagues and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Star Media Group, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being with us throughout this program. I would also like to thank our partner Cisco for joining us in making this webinar a success. If you need any assistance from us, please reach out to us at events@thestar.com.my. Once again, thank you, and we look forward to host you again in the next webinar. Till then, stay safe, stay innovative, and stay destructive. Bye.